I made this mistake so many times in business, so I want to share with you my biggest mistake in business. And it was largely an invisible mistake. In other words, there was an unknown. I didn't know about something, but I didn't know that I didn't know it. So in this video, I hope to help you to avoid my big mistake. So my mistake was to think of business as a psychological or a social thing. In other words, you've got to believe in yourself, you have to have confidence, that's psychology, and you have to be active out there, meet people, invite people to test your product, your service, that's social. But it didn't occur to me that business is actually a machine, and you've got to adopt the mindset of an engineer. Now, I have family members who are computer science graduates and engineers, but I don't have their mindset. And somehow interacting with them didn't help me to develop the mindset of an engineer. An engineer is basically someone who creates something that works. It's really that simple. So I began to develop the mind of an engineer only in 2010 when I taught myself AutoHotkey, which is a script programming language for Windows. And I became something of an engineer because I had to test every line of code, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And so there's no ambiguity about that. But oftentimes, entrepreneurs will believe that, oh, their product will work, their business will work, but they don't have an objective basis for such claims. They don't have evidence. But when you're an engineer, you tend not to fall victim to that kind of subjective bias. An engineer will, more than the average person, will tend to be very honest because he looks at what he created and it works or it doesn't work. There's no ambiguity about it. It's like computer code, it's 1 or 0. There's no 0.5, it's 1 or 0. It works or it doesn't work. So my point in this video is that I want to help you to adopt this mindset of an engineer. If you're launching a business is really like a machine. You've got to build the parts and you've got to test the parts, make sure that they work, and then you put together all the parts and you test again to make sure that the machine works in acquiring new customers, serving them, getting them to come back. Every part of your business should be a something mechanical that you can test, very much like a car. Think of your business like a car. Every part has a function and they all must work together to produce the car. Same thing with a plane. Now, it's not going to be easy because one, you have to develop the engineering mindset, and the only way to do that is to actually do some kind of engineering project or software project. And two, of course, you have to learn along the way, and it's not easy. Engineering is actually a discipline that is taught at university, right? So it's not easy. So when we look at people like Elon Musk, who is primarily the chief engineer of all his companies, we can see why he's been so successful. And so engineers who go into business, I think, have a better chance of succeeding because they tend to be very honest. Whereas most entrepreneurs, especially those who create a business based on their passion, and it's not their fault, but they tend to be subjective and therefore they're not objective. And they go on a path, they spend a lot of money, they spend a lot of time, it doesn't work, but they never know that it doesn't work because it doesn't occur to them to test different parts of their business, different functions, different processes. If they had tested each part, then they would have been able to create all the different parts and put them together. And I think that Eric Ries and Steve Blank did a good job of convincing entrepreneurs to focus on the minimum viable product. And the minimum viable product, or MVP, is a product that has one feature or one function and it actually works. It performs a function that customers appreciate. So that's, I guess, the first level of engineering, so to speak. You're creating an MVP that actually works, and then you can build on it. At least you have users who can work with you, collaborate, and help you to develop your product. So that's a very no-nonsense approach to building a business. If you're creating a product, it could be a book, a video, a documentary, a course, whatever, but you don't spend a lot of time talking to customers and getting their feedback and asking them, did it work? Then you're not really in contact with reality. I know it sounds crazy, but trust me, I was not in contact with reality in my previous businesses, except in those cases where I was able to actually get a contract, like a five-figure contract. Then I know that my product or my service is valuable because a customer actually is willing to pay for it. So it's really, really, really important to have an interface with your users, with your prospects, customers, so that you can ask them for feedback. And obviously the ultimate feedback is uh, cash or credit card. If they're willing to put money on the table, it can be something as simple as or as low as $5. Then you've got validation at the $5 level. But if nobody is willing to put any money in order to try your product, then there's no hope. You're not building a business, you are building your ego. I know it sounds maybe offensive, maybe insulting, but trust me, I've been there. Okay? When you start a business, you don't have anything. People who have a job, they have a paycheck, they have status, but when you're launching a business, you have nothing. And therefore, people have this tendency to pretend that everything is going well and they're successful, but nothing is further from the truth. So you have to be humble and go to the customer and ask him or her a lot of questions. You have to go to different types of customers because you don't know which type is going to resonate with your product, and ask them a lot of questions and put the product into their hands. Put the product into their hands and let them try it, and be there with them when they try it so that you can get feedback in real time. That's what I'm doing right now with my web applications for entrepreneurs and small business owners. I'm there with them on Zoom or on Facebook. I ask them, did it work? Tell me the truth. And I make sure I get the feedback as early and as often as possible. That is really a smart way to develop a product. So you do not have to be home alone or in your garage, create a product by yourself. You cannot create a product by yourself unless you are creating that product for yourself. Chances are, if you want to build a business, you've got to be in constant communication with your clients, your users, and get feedback from them. And Elon Musk said something very powerful that I memorized instantly because I knew the value of it. He said, a well thought out critique of whatever you're doing is as valuable as gold. Gold. Okay? So what Elon meant was that whatever it is that you're doing, whatever it is that you're trying to do, you've got to get people to criticize in detail in a formal session what you're doing. Don't ask your friends or family, what do you think of my product? That's not serious. If you're serious about your product and about your business, you got to create a special session where you're going to go all out in asking your users what they like, what they don't like, how they feel about your product. You've got to be willing to face the truth. That's what engineering is all about. There is no bullshit in engineering. In psychology, sociology, the humanities, there's a lot of bullshit. There's a lot of subjective bias. But when you're an engineer, and that's what a business owner really is, that's what a startup founder is, you have no time and no patience, or you should have no patience for bullshit. And the bullshit comes from us as entrepreneurs. We tend to be passionate, and therefore we tend to be blind to our own blind spots. And the only remedy, the only cure to this subjective bias is to get objective feedback. Now, subjectivity in itself is not bad. You've got to believe in your product. You've got to have a vision. And most of what you believe to be true about your future business is not provable, right? So you have to summon the energy to believe in yourself. But at the same time, you've got to have the humility, the open mind to seek feedback and to accept the criticism. Don't be emotional about it. Don't take it personally. Just get the factual feedback so that you can improve your product. In fact, it's much easier to develop a winning product if you work with customers and you get their feedback. And people are very polite, right? So you have to really push for it. You have to tell them, look, I really want to improve this product. I'm doing it for you. It's not for me. My ego is not part of it. You have to be honest. You have to be humble so that you can learn from your customers. And eventually you'll know exactly what they want, what they need, what they're willing to pay for. And that's when you create a successful product.